All right, welcome everyone. It's Monday evening. We are working on chapter 4 of the book The Invocation of Presence. Welcome, Alka.
Good morning.
Hello.
Vocation of presence? No.
I'm sorry, practical work on self. My mind is still on the
Okay.
second book. That tells you a lot about me. Hold on just a second. All right, go back to the beginning of this chapter. I was just reading through it just before the meeting. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. Good to
Hello.
be here.
All right, I think this week was us reading the chapter 4 on our own. Uh, and I'm assuming all of us have read chapter 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought we were going to read it in class, so I didn't read it.
Uh-oh.
I can I can start if you want.
Please.
So, chapter 4, Booby the Jew. Ordinary man is a slave to involuntary restless movements which prove that he has no authority over his biological machine. In observing the manifestations of our machines, we cannot help noticing that our machines become carried away with various involuntary projects, which is to say, squirm helplessly in their seats. Although the clarification of these ideas is valuable, the jokes and stories are also part of our work and can be useful, especially when we know much more and we can see that they not only tell an amusing story in relation to our perception of this world, but that they also refer to events in an entirely different dimension. As to the next, if no one is, I can continue.
Mechanical human being looks like an utterly helpless booby. Why? Because the non-phenomenal self is a slave to the machine, and the machine is a slave to the motor center continual output, resulting in the most bizarre involuntary restless movements. These pathetic spasmodic twitchings are signs to anyone who has eyes to see that we have no authority over our own organic machine. And I pass. Thank you.
If we were able to observe impartially these restless manifestations in the workings of our own biological machine, we could perhaps accumulate real, non fantastic data about the inner and outer activities of the machine, and even perhaps someday apply this otherwise wasted negative force for our own work toward the awakening of the machine.
When material is offered, which can be used for observation of the machine, We should learn to use it to observe the machine impartially, without shame. Embarrassment about the machine's activities indicates deep identification with the machine. Impartial observing means we must be prepared to see ourselves as others see us from outside, not so subjectively. Eventually, we will undoubtedly see many psychological and emotional features about the machine which are not at all pleasing and may even be horrifying to our observing selves. Unconscious actions continually irritate and annoy others, and even if they are too asleep themselves to know exactly the cause of their displeasure, they feel an immediate automatic reflex of hatred towards these manifestations. If we believe even for a moment that our posture and manifestations are self-directed and wholly arbitrary, we are steeped in a self-induced hypnotic illusion. Pass.
We could analyze the manifestations of the machine, and if we could analyze them sincerely and impartially, we could see how really limited they are, and that our entire repertoire of motor centrum manifestations consists, without exception, of habitual postures and involuntary spasmodic semi-faintings from one mechanicality of the machine to another. If we can observe the biological machine as a stranger to ourselves, we should be able to see its activities in an impartial light.
We are never really able to observe the smallest fractions of mental and motor centrum activities of the machine until we have observed for a very long time and can predict what the machine is likely to do each day. Our observations will become more refined as we come to know the machine more and more intimately. As it is, we have only the most vague general impression of the machine and cannot know, from this general impressionistic view, anything of real value about its life and activities.
In our observation of the biological machine, for the purpose of this exercise, we are particularly interested in those manifestations which indicate that the machine is restless and that our attention has begun to wander, was distracted or seduced, or the machine's will to go to sleep is greater than our own will to awaken it. We should, for the moment, confine our observations to these ordinary restless mechanicalities, which we call our booby du jour.
Of course, we all know that even if we had the strength of 10, we could not possibly contain or discontinue even two or three of the smaller, less forceful mechanicalities. The machine is too subtle, and the will of the non-phenomenal self is as yet non-existent. The resulting sensation of frustration and the remorse engendered by our utter failure to influence the machine, even slightly, can serve as the negative force necessary for the awakening of the machine. And I pass that.
Then we can observe the biological machine in its awakened state, and at the same time observe real data about this stranger in which we are carried about all day, just like a newborn baby in a self propelled perambulator. The effort which we expend in achieving some form of impartiality in the observation of the biological machine is much more important than anything in particular which we happen to observe in the course of events.
Nikhil, can you scroll down? In general, each typicality of human machine is completely unique in its repertoire of mechanicalities. One typicality will manifest as do all others of the same typicality.
To really be able to observe the inner workings and organization of the biological machine, one must be able to awaken the machine at will, which is to say, by the exertion of the will of the non-phenomenal source of attention over the will of the machine to remain asleep. Let me give you that again. To really be able to observe the inner workings and organization of the biological machine, one must be able to awaken to the machine, to awaken the machine at will, which is to say, by the exertion of the will of the non-phenomenal source of attention over the will of the machine to remain asleep. The observation of the machine then contains the most important factor, the invoked presence of the source of attention. Pass.
This presence, although subtle and seemingly powerless, is the precise factor which causes the machine to change from a pleasure machine into a transformational apparatus, according to the Heisenberg principle, the law which tells us that the act of observation seriously alters that which is being observed. At the same time, because the machine is awake during observation, the memory function of the higher mental apparatus will retain data obtained during the awakened state for later use in the course of voluntary evolution. I pass.
Observations of the inner and outer activities of the machine should not be limited to the period during which we are still excited about it and wish to learn something new. We must learn to take these higher mental apparatus photographs of the biological machine at different times and in different states. not just of small details, but of whole actions, in particular of the spasmodic, restless movements which we call fidgeting. We can use these stupid, restless mechanicalities as centrums of gravity for the detailed observation of the activities of the biological machine. From later on,
Later on, after a long period of this type of observation, we will observe the machine from an entirely new centrum of gravity, which will be the higher emotional apparatus, when we will learn something very different about the life of the machine. If these mental photographs are sincerely collected by an impartial camera, and we have a sufficiently large number of observational samples to study over a long period of time, we are able to view the machine much less subjectively and can obtain a vivid picture of the biological machine, not just from moment to moment, but in the longer view, which will help us to understand our work with the machine in the eternal return.
Because we are making these observations with the non-phenomenal source of attention and not just with the ordinary mental apparatus of the machine, we have established a bridge across the barriers between the higher and lower mental apparatus, and our information will, in this way, survive the momentary life of ordinary memory.
The observation of mechanicalities of the machine organizes our attention and keeps us on guard, watchful for any sign of something unusual, which we can use for more advanced exercises of our will and subtle influence over the machine. We must come to understand that the machine is not a real being, and that we need not feel shame for its activities in sleep, but at the same time, we are responsible for allowing them to continue.
it is our identification with the biological machine which provides the illusion that we ourselves, I'll give that to you again. It is our identification with the biological machine which provides the illusion that we ourselves play a part in life and that our part remains unalterable. Because as we are in the beginning, we are utterly unable to exert our own will over the will of the biological machine. Because it is a machine and has unconscious will of its own, modified by its conditioning.
The biological machine may say and do 1,000 stupid things which we never would do if given a choice. We notice helplessly that it becomes restless in our one centrum, does something terribly self-destructive, and then, to escape the consequences of its action, shifts quickly to another centrum, then to another, and so it goes. These stupid, destructive, and wasteful little mechanicalities of the motor centrum should indicate to us, as if we needed this additional demonstration, that the machine is definitively sleeping, and that it is the motor centrum which is the source of the majority of our manifestations. After a long period of observation of the biological machine, we might become afraid of the machine. We may even come to feel that the machine is our deadliest enemy, just because it spoils our life systematically and predictably, ruining any good impression we might like to make upon ourselves and others. Pass.
How can we manifest the beauty of truth absolute when, in the middle of the aesthetic crescendo, the biological machine, unaccountably and without our permission, happens to idly pick its nose in public? We may see ourselves chained to the habits, tastes, sympathies, and moods of the machine, with which we have nothing whatever in common. And when the machine runs like clockwork, burying our higher attention in the subtle sleep of routinization, it is even worse because we cannot see the sleep when everything is quiet on the outside.
We will undoubtedly discover, to our horror, the real terror of the situation, that our precious force for work is robbed by the continual foot tapping, scratching, and fidgeting, after which, what remains for our own needs? We must somehow learn to stop the machine from flushing this precious energy, rightfully belonging to us for our work, right down the proverbial toilet. But while we may feel gratitude for the biological machine because it brought us to the work, and we may even feel some mechanical sensations of nostalgia for our earlier innocent identification with the biological machine, which is to say that mechanical Garden of Eden from which, by partaking of the fruit of knowledge, we are ejected, we must not allow ourselves to be carried away by the unconscious yearning for comfort to the degree that we seek refuge, even temporarily, from the evolutionary journey. And I pass.
In our beginning work, we must be able to accept that from now on we will have no place to rest our weary selves, no permanent home, no safe, secure pillow on which to lay our busily chattering heads. But how, in effect, can we begin to do this? Is there some practical way to ride herd on these mechanicalities, the movie manifestations of the machine? We can begin to exert our will upon the biological machine by voluntarizing what has become involuntary and automatic. Select one habitual mechanicality of the machine which you have observed over a long period of time, making certain that this same mechanicality appears often, at least several dozen times each day. Now manifest this action intentionally, repeatedly over a long period of time, observing the machine. This period serves two primary purposes. First, to awaken it slightly as it falls under the spotlight of observation, and secondly, to see that it does not change from its usual automatic manifestations.
when manifesting a particular active state, if you happen to catch yourselves in it, especially if it is very dramatic, suddenly shout cut, stop the action like a film director. Then voluntarily begin the action again, loudly shouting lights, camera, action. Repeat this several times for each dramatic manifestation until it becomes part of your voluntary. You are now all movie directors for the remainder of your personal drama. Now then, lights, camera, action.
Several times for each dramatic manifestation until it becomes part of your voluntary. You are now all movie director for the remainder of your personal drama. Now then, lights, camera, action. Repeat this voluntary performance many times until you can authorize its appearance, in the sense of being an author of a story as well as allowing it to occur, and its disappearance. Take the posture of a theatre director in these voluntary performances. With this manifestation, see the machine as an actor playing an artificial role. Take the mastery, be firm. Cut to a fine edge the obedience of the actor. Then dismiss the character from the stage and use it only when you wish. Then choose another and follow the same procedure. Master these as you audition them one by one.
This is the student's account of one example of the exercise as it actually occurred in a New York workshop, 1983. We met as a group in a midtown restaurant which served as one of EJ's temporary offices in America. EJ had not yet arrived, and as the conversation ranged into the rare-field atmosphere of pure speculation, we all began to be swept away by the momentum. David had the presence of mind to see the opportunity and shouted, "Cut!" very loudly, so loudly that everyone stopped what they were doing, including the cooks behind the counter. He rose to his feet and, acting the part of the Cecil B. DeMille, clapped his hand peremptorily and commanded, "Let's take that scene again. Places, everyone. Lights, camera, action." To our utter astonishment, the entire restaurant started up again at his command. He repeated this three more times, and finally, when he felt he could not get away with it anymore, he loudly exclaimed, "Print it! That's the take," and quietly resumed his seat. We couldn't believe how compliant everyone, ourselves and the total strangers included, had been to these commands of his. And I pass. EJ evidently had been sitting around the L-shaped corner during all of this. He clapped his hands and said, "Bravissimo! You had the good sense to stop it just before they came to themselves, formed a mob, and lynched you." EJ also permitted us to call cuts when we caught each other asleep. If the manifestations were sufficiently dramatic, we could call for as many retakes as we felt the subject was able to endure.
And that is the end of the chapter.
Bravo. Buenísimo.
David, was this you?
No, no.
Oh,
I could probably do it now, but I would not have been able to do it 40 years ago. So just be aware, if you ever invite me to dinner at a restaurant, particularly if there's 5 or 6 of us.
I'm actually interested to see how everyone reacts. Not us, the group, but everyone around us to this situation.
Well, in today's society, I might be afraid to do this because
Yes.
God only knows what kind of strange police there might be out there.
But you can do it at a private party at your house.
Okay, you're all invited. Let me know when you're coming. I'll
Nick,
Yes,
make
sir.
some food. Yeah.
could
Go ahead.
you scroll a bit more slowly, please. I wanted to go to explore with all you that part of the Garden of Eden because I
Mm.
was very there. But while we may, I will read it. But while we may feel gratitude for the biological machine because it brought us to the work, and we may even feel some mechanical sensations, nostalgia for our earlier innocent associations with the biological machine, which is to say that mechanical garden of Eden from which, by partaking of the fruit of knowledge, we are rejected. We must not allow ourselves to be carried away by the unconscious yearning for comfort to the degree that we seek refuge, even temporarily, from the evolutionary journey. I would ask David, all of you, your impressions about this. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like the the use of the word Garden of Eden is, I mean, I don't know what the Bible meaning is, but here it's when you are identified and everything is going on mechanically and we feel that we are doing it. But when we start observing, there is some separation. So it's like, I think that's what they mean by uh, fruit of knowledge. We are ejected. But that is uncomfortable. That is not a comfortable feeling or sensation. So not to be carried away by that comfort back to the Garden of Eden where you are identified. That's how I.
We were very happy. Ignorance is bliss. Have you ever heard that comment, Bernie?
Yes, of course. Yes.
So we grew up, ignorance is bliss. We don't ever think about ourselves, self-reflect, and we kind of figure out how to get along with the world. Then, tragically, we start to self-observe and we go, oh my God. And that knowledge, which is self-observation, ejects us from the Garden of Eden of sleep. because most of us figure out how to work in the world so that you're marginally comfortable. Most people aren't, but at least it works. Does that make sense, Bernie?
Yes,
Okay.
and
Yes.
and also the last
Do you want me to
line.
scroll down, Bernie?
No, no, no,
No,
no,
no, no.
no, no,
Just
no.
let him finish talking.
It makes a sense because it says that comfort where we seek refuge, even temporarily, from the evolutionary journey. So it stops our evolution somehow. That comfortable states of sleep. But I never saw that. The idea of Garden of Eden in that line
Mm, yeah.
very very new to me, because it's always the Garden of Eden in the Bible or in Catholicism or whatever is the paradise lost by because
Hmm.
we received knowledge in a way, no. But this
Yes.
is very interesting. Thank you.
Hmm.
Another
So,
thing, maybe it's interesting to share. I have talked about it. I think yesterday in the group or whatever. That I read from a very well-known ethologist, neurobiologist, and a concept that said that um, human beings, species, was able to evolve quickly while thriving with the circumstances of environment, and from maybe 200, 300 or whatever years, uh, civilization has brought us, of course, very interesting and comfortable things that, and from his point of view, it says that he's stopped the quick evolution of man. I don't know, it's an opinion, but it is, I think it's interesting to mention it at least.
yes. So in the last sentence of this paragraph where it says, we must not allow ourselves to be carried away by the unconscious yearning for comfort to the degree that we seek refuge from the evolutionary journey. So the comfort, is it the comfort from the uh let's say the beachhead, like the space
No. Read it carefully. What does it say? We must not allow ourselves to be carried away by the unconscious yearning for comfort. So the beachhead is a different thing altogether. So what is the comfort that was making us feel comfortable in the Garden of Eden in this particular context?
sleep.
Our sleep habits, right? We're imbued with many sleep habits. We're surrounded by that. And we want to, it's kind of feels cozy to stay there, you know.
Hmm.
How you're with other people and then you get home, you close the door and you go, ah, now I can be myself. That's a lot of people say your own mechanicality. So it's don't allow yourself to be carried away by that, for the old stuff, Those were the good old days when I didn't have to think of myself. I didn't have to self-reflect. The beachhead comes from a different part of us. It's a recognition that that is our home. It's the beginning of our home, true home. But it's uncomfortable to get there. You had to fight your way there. Fight your way through what? Through the mechanical Garden of Eden. Does that make sense, Nikhil?
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay.
Garden of Eden is, in this context, is more like a sarcastic, not sarcastic, but
Yes.
in that tone, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
that's exactly right. There's a sarcastic element to it. It's not meant to be the the true meaning of Garden of Eden. It's the mechanical Garden of Eden. You know. Yeah, it's wow.
Was that guy in Matrix movie the one who makes a deal with the agents that I just want to go back to sleep and not
Yes.
remember anything?
That's it.
The
There it
steak
is.
Yeah.
guy, the guy who wants to eat steak and enjoy how it
Yeah,
tastes.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
So he
Makes
was.
makes sense to me. I love it.
The phrase ignorance is bliss. I have, when I think about it, I have made a, a compensation to it because I say ignorance is bliss, but it makes us vulnerable because
That too. Yeah.
we are, we are very vulnerable in that condition, no? Because you can be fooled easily.
And we are, and so the animal that's surviving is very knowledgeable of its surroundings, high degree of of certainty about its surroundings so it doesn't get eaten, right? All animals adapt to that. But we're talking about the next level up, which is now be aware of yourself, not just your surroundings, but be aware of yourself and what yourself does to interact with the world. And in here, EJ is reminding us, kind of like he did in the previous chapter, that we have unconscious habits, little things that we do. Maybe the way we talk with our hands, right? Or the way we use our voice in a certain way. Those are the booby du jour. Does everybody have a sense of what that phrase means?
Is
Can
anything that distracts us? Sorry, Nikhil, go on.
No, I was gonna say I don't understand, but yeah, keep going ahead, Nishan.
Yeah,
Well,
anything that would distract us.
no.
No,
So,
in Spanish is el tonto del día,
okay.
the, the idiot of the day,
Could you
Tonto
repeat
del
that?
día,
Like,
the idiot
idiot
of the day.
day.
Oh,
So
okay.
the term booby in English is like awkward, like somebody that is uh, does something awkward, always trips or says the wrong thing at the wrong time or
clumsy.
clumsy. But clumsy, yeah, that could be it too. It's just that they're just a foolish person right then and there. So with an example, a common example for a lot of people, you're sitting listening to somebody, maybe you're in a bit of a lecture hall, and maybe your legs are crossed, and then, how you start going like this with your foot. You see people like not necessarily tapping their foot, but they're just kind of like,
Fidgeting.
huh?
Fidgeting a little bit.
Fidgeting. That'd be an example of fidgeting, or you go like this, or you notice when you get a little bit nervous, maybe you go like this, or those would be fidgeting mechanicalities that arise out of something. Doesn't matter. The why doesn't matter here, right, Bernie?
Yes.
Okay. It's an opportunity. These chapters offer us an opportunity to stand in a different place than we've ever there, go down about 2 or 3 paragraphs, select one, see, and that you have observed over a long period of time, making certain. Can you observe that with throughout the chapter? He says, observe it objectively. Like you're just noticing this machine, this animal that you're observing, it does that. Like whatever it might be, you will have dozens of these, dozens different ones that you do dozens of times a day. It's okay. The objective here is not to stop the habit. The objective here is what? There was a stunning little paragraph. Go back to page 56.
Hmm.
Let's see, where are we? There we go. Is that 56? Yeah. Okay. Because we are making these observations with the non-phenomenal source of attention, not just the ordinary mental apparatus, we have established a bridge across the barriers between the higher and lower mental apparatus, and our information will in this way survive the momentary life of ordinary memory. These are objective observations. We place our essential attention on them, and you let them play out. And you go, wow. So now you have a bridge between that mechanicality and the observation of the self. The non-phenomenal source of attention, the sensing mechanism. You notice it. Maybe you go like this to your nose. And you go, gosh, I do that every time. Doesn't matter why you do it or how you learned it, or you're doing it because your father used to do it. None of that matters. None of that. Okay. It's just noticing it, and it's an opportunity to bridge from the higher source of attention into the everyday life that we surround ourselves with. It's like a beautiful invitation to objectivity.
Guys, have you noticed what I noticed? During hour, this hour, and when we do this meeting, many of us do many meetings, of course, no? But during that meeting, there is I talk about I talk about myself, of course, no? But maybe you can tell also that there's a special state of attention. You are there. I am there. I am attentive, and I even enthusiastically attentive, because we are learning about important things. But in a few minutes, I don't know, in 4 minutes we finish this, and I don't know if it happens to you, but it happens to me. Poof, that attention finishes, and uh, I'm lost again in the daily things. No, I forget.
Yes.
That's the truth. I forget, uh, and I forget. But not totally, because I ask myself, what happened, and I tend to think that the the presence of the group during that 60 minutes is helping me. And when the attention of the group finishes, a lot of attention goes.
Yes.
It's an observation only. No, I don't mean to criticize it, but
No, no,
anyway,
no.
it happens.
This is an enormously important point that Bernie is making. During this period of time, we are literally lifted by the invocation with others. Okay. There's 7 people here signed in. I think Swati is here and she's signed in. But there's 7 of us here. That think of like the attention is being poured into the group. We're at our house, we're outside, wherever we're viewing this, we're pouring our attention into the group. That combined attention, because it is the holy attention, creates the invocation, and that invocation lifts us up. The key for the great voyager is to say, okay, I remember exactly what it felt like to be in that invocation. And I know where it is in this physical body. Now, as I leave this space, can I hold that memory of where it is in me? Now, it's not so that you, it's not so much that you hold the same level of knowledge, but it's that you can get to that place in yourself. When you are in an enhanced invocation like we are right now, there's actually more knowledge available because more attention is around. Literally, it's just a quantitative thing. I don't know how to measure it. I just know that it happens. When there's more people around, more knowledge is available to me. Then I accept that, but I carry the vibratory sensation to me after I click the thing that says leave meeting.
Mm.
Nice.
I guarantee you, so many times in so many different classes, something will be said very distinctly in the class. It's very straightforward, very simple, very exact. And then it's forgotten.
Mm.
People forget whether it's the exercise or they forget what they agreed to or they said. You say, oh, yeah, I'll meet you at 10 in the morning. And then the next time they go, oh, yeah, I forgot. What does that even mean? Right? They they lose the space. So you have to, as a voyager, you have to be careful on behalf of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's why when we originally did this book, we would do it in such a way that people wrote down, the group wrote down, this is my exercise. You know, I'm addicted to chewing gum. And then you kind of can't forget it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you report back to the group, and you can't really say at that minute, you can't really say, oh, I forgot. But it's a great introduction. It's a great,
Yeah. But I think you forgetting is also information, right? It also is data for you.
it depends on whether you watch it the forgetting or not. If it's just a week later, you would say, oh, I forgot. It's pretty weak, you know. You're right, it is information, but what do you do with that information? Are you one of the spies in that zone, you know, that comes out and says, here's what happens when the forgetting takes place, you know? Here's, oh, I know I'm going to forget. So what am I going to do?
Mm.
Well, I don't need to do anything because there's not another class for another week. No worries. So, how you take it and how you would like to digest it is up to each and every one of us. It's what you would like to do, you know, that's all. Nobody's forcing anybody to do anything. It's just there's invitations that are given in this book that are quite wonderful.
So I think for me, I think I'll try to do the cut and then light camera action thing. If I can uh, catch the mechanicality while
Okay.
it's happening.
Okay.
And
All
and I
right.
plan to make a list of what things I do. Uh,
But don't forget that it says, if you read the chapter, it says perfect it.
yes.
Perfect that mechanicality. So you become an actor. You reconstruct it.
Yes. Yes.
God forbid, this is not to change. It's not for you to get better. It's not for you to change a habit. It's not for you to look better in public. It's to create this bridge.
Make it voluntary.
Make it voluntary. So you harvest it from where it is, sleepy mechanicality, and then you gradually become an Academy Award winning actor presenting it.
We'll all get our own Oscars by the end of this book. Let's aim for that.
There you go.
Mhm.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, David, Nick,
Bernie, you
Let's
bet. Take care of yourself, my man.
Joel. Bye bye.
Okay.
Thank you,
all right.
everyone.
See you guys
See
next
you.
Monday.
Looking
Yes,
forward
see
to
you.
it.